Hello there, people of the internet. So I am, I'm checking out some of my father's firearms, right? I'd made videos on these firearms a long time ago, but that was a long time ago, and those videos are definitely dated. So right here, this is what we're going to check out next in the series. Whenever I talk about these rifles, I'm talking about my father's specific copies of these rifles. So we're going to be talking about these particular ones. So this is a Winchester 94 AE. And I believe the AE series it came out sometime in the 80s or something like that. But this right here is essentially reminiscent of the Winchester's 1894 design with a couple of updated features. Apparently the AE in the name suggests that this right here is an angle eject system. Now the Winchester series ejects from the top of the rifle. The ejection port is right here on the top of the receiver. And back whenever this design was made, which we'll talk about here in a second, optics weren't really a thing. However, nowadays optics are very much a thing, and if you want to mount a scope or something on top of your rifle, having the ejection port right on top of the rifle would cause all sorts of malfunctions. So what does Winchester do? They make the angle eject system to where whenever the shells eject out of your firearm, they actually eject more sideways than they do straight up out of the rifle. So before we get into talking about the Winchester 94, let's go ahead and talk about where it came from. I've made history videos on the lever action series before, so if you want to get a full in-depth video, go ahead and go watch some of those videos, but I'll give y'all a quick rundown. This right here is where it all really started. This right here is the Henry lever action rifle. Originally this rifle was chambered in the 44 Henry rimfire. The magazine on the bottom of the rifle is all open and whatnot. I think it has this spring system follower system right here that you would actually lift this follower all the way up to the top of your barrel. This right here up here at the front of the barrel rotates, and then you drop your rounds in. It's reminiscent of what Henry rifles do nowadays, just a little bit on the different side. This hole in the bottom of the firearm right here, I hear Kevin screaming in the background. The hole on the bottom of the firearm right here, there is a hole that lets a lot of dirt and debris and whatnot in. It's not the stronger system because it's not a solid system, so there's a lot of issues that come into the feeding system with this thing. Besides that, the system on the Henry lever action is incredibly simple. Actually, there's just a toggle lock system. It doesn't really have any kind of, how would I describe this? It doesn't have any kind of physical locking system other than the fact that you just have a toggle lock system that you hold closed with your hand. Whenever you feed from the tube-fed magazine into the elevator chamber, the elevator will actually pick up a round from that tube-fed magazine and load it into the chamber underneath the spent casing that would then pop up. I'm trying to show this off best that I can here, guys. That would pop up. I'll go ahead and show from this angle. Whenever the round is extracted from the chamber, the spent round is extracted from the chamber, it would be on top of the elevator right here. Whenever the elevator pops up to load a new round into that chamber, the old spent casing will actually be pushed out of the top of the receiver by this elevator right here. Now, there were some improvements, I would call, well, some people call them improvements. I'd call it more of a redesign. There were some improvements of the system in the 1866 model. It still fired the rimfire cartridge, but they adopted a loading gate on the side of the receiver, so your tube-fed magazine could be closed, and you could load it from the side of your receiver, side of your rifle, versus having to get up close to where the muzzle is. In 1873, they had basically the same exact toggle lock system, same exact side loading system, same exact everything. The material of the receiver changed from gunmetal to iron, I think, but they also adopted a centerfire cartridge, the 4440, and that right there was definitely a more powerful, more reliable system than the 44 Henry rimfire cartridge. And like I said, if you want more in-depth information on all of this, go ahead and go check out those other videos. But 1873, they adopt the 4440. In 1886, they strengthen their toggle lock system. Was it 1886? Yeah, 1886, they strengthen their toggle lock system by adding these two little locking lugs right here on the back of the bolt. And the way that these work is they literally, once you open up the what would you call this, the actual lever to open up the bolts, you can see where those strengthening lugs would lock into the back of the bolt right there. In 1892, they kept their strengthened bolt design, but they adopted it in a smaller pistol caliber carbine version. It was just a modern, newer technology that was intended to replace the original 1873 toggle lock system. What was that sound? I hear Kevin screaming again. Thank you, Kevin. I appreciate that. I'm going to assume Kevin's screaming at me because I'm out here talking and making noise. So 1886, they strengthen the system. 1892, they make a smaller version of the strengthened system to kind of compete with the 1873. That was the older technology, regular toggle lock system. 1894, they keep the same sort of locking system. They just have one single piece behind the bolt as opposed to two pieces that go up to the sides of the bolt. And the firing pin is actually inside of the locking system itself, so if this is not in battery, that will actually assist you with not dealing with out of battery detonations. They also adopted the 3030 cartridge, which is what this 94 is chambered in, and that was the first commercially available smokeless powder round. Originally, whenever I made the video on this Winchester, I thought that 3030 was a black powder round because of the name designation, but apparently the name designation is given that designation because other companies that were not Winchester did not want a Winchester brand a Winchester branded name on their rifles. So if we had, say, a Marlin 95 chambered in 3030, then they would put 3030 on the Marlin instead of 30 Winchester, which is also what 3030 was known as. So now we're going to talk about my father's particular 3030. Whenever I was growing up, I was used to 22s. I shot a lot of 22s. Like, that was my go-to, was the 22, because I was not a recoil junkie. Well, my father also had a single shot 410, and I thought that was just the most powerful thing in the world whenever I was probably about 2 feet tall, right? Single shot 410, it was hard for me to hold up, it was hard for me to use, but eventually it got to the point to where I was comfortable using it. Well, I say comfortable. Whenever I would shoot that thing, I remember I would, like, aiming a general area, I would close my eyes and pull the trigger, and I would just hope. I would ride the lightning and I would pray, and I really was out of my element whenever it came to shooting that. But I was getting more comfortable with shooting that. I still didn't hold my eyes open or anything like that. That's whenever my father introduced the 3030 to me. And I was like, my God, this is a real rifle. This isn't like the little 410 shotgun or the 22s that I've been using. This is a legitimate thing. And he was like, yeah, it sure is. Guess what? We're going to go out and we're going to shoot this thing. And I was like, oh boy, I'm really going to have to ride the lightning with this one. So growing up, I played a lot of Call of Duty games, and I noticed that the front sight hood kind of was reminiscent of a Car 98 front sight hood from those video games, and I was like, I actually really like that. And well, that was just one of the things that took to me, and well, just how aiming down the sights with this rifle, it's just one of those things that really made me enjoy how this platform worked. Eventually, I grew to have a bigger appreciation for this rifle. Growing up, whenever it was harsh recoil and whatnot, I really did not shoot it all that much. The 3030 was just a little bit too much for me as a young man. I was definitely a lighter recoiling kind of guy. Now, even to this day, I prefer lighter recoiling cartridges. That's why I love the 6.5 Carcano, however it is you want to pronounce that, then the 6.5 Japanese Arisaka round. I absolutely love those cartridges, and the 6.5 Sweet, that's also a really, really good one. 308 is kind of pushing it for my enjoyment levels of recoil. 30-06, I'd say, is like my maximum for enjoyment of recoil, but besides that, I definitely still have the same tendencies that I used to have. I'm not a fan of recoil, but I'm also not a fan of recoil. You will see me out here firing off some pretty powerful, pretty potent rounds, but they're not exactly my go-to whenever I make my videos. It's one of the main reasons why I like intermediate caliber cartridges so much. But the 3030 round, I wouldn't really push it out past 200 yards, but I myself don't really shoot past 200 yards anyway, so that's not really a deal breaker for my tastes. Whenever it comes to this 3030, whenever I made my last video, I was talking about how once your rounds are loaded into the chamber, you can't top it off until you cycle through all of your rounds. I do not know why, but apparently this particular 3030 has issues with that. I currently have one round loaded into the tube-fed magazine in this thing, and I have another 3030 round right here. And for some reason, with this particular 3030, I cannot get the Kingsgate to go down far enough to load another round into into the tube magazine to top off the magazine. I do not know why that is, but a lot of people on my last video were saying, yeah, you can top that thing off, just push that gate down and load another round in. And well, for the longest time I thought that was just the design flaw of this series, but apparently I was wrong. Apparently other 3030s out there, well, apparently other Winchester 94 AEs out there, I only have experience with this one. Those other ones you can just top off the magazine, no problem. And that makes sense, but this particular one, there's something going on internally to where I just cannot do that. So this right here operates off of the same lever system, the same elevator system as the original Henry to some extent. There are some changes in this. The elevator kind of tilts versus the Henry, which kind of pops straight up. But definitely very reminiscent of the original design. The bolt still moves back and forth on the top of the receiver. It's still a top of the receiver ejection system. The only difference is the elevator is a little bit different, and this right here has a locking system on it, and of course the type of ammunition. So now that my round is chambered and the tube magazine is empty, I can go ahead and slide another 30-30 round into this thing. If you want to load multiple rounds into the tube-fed magazine of this thing, you want to keep your last cartridge that you're loading in out about halfway so you can load another one in right behind it, and that negates the issue of not being able to top off your magazine. So this right here is just regular old 30-30, but it is old ammunition. I've had this ammo for quite a while, and honestly I'm not sure if it's going to fire. Let's go ahead and send a round downrange and we'll find out. Well, she fired. My steel target fell down though, and sent a ejected round out. I saw whenever I ejected that round, it came out sideways as opposed to like flying out of the top of the rifle, like say my Rossi R92 would. So let's go ahead and set another round downrange. I'm going to see if I can hit the steel even though it's falling down. I think I just hit the concrete. Now watch as I eject this spent casing. It comes out of the side of the receiver, out this way, as opposed to coming out the top of the receiver. And both of my brass cases landed in basically the same area. So I have my Rossi R92 that I was showing off earlier, and this right here is not an angle eject system, and this right here is what I mean by loading one round right behind the other, just like that. Do that with that Winchester, and you won't have issues loading from the magazine. But see, with this Rossi R92, I can press this down far enough to be able to load another round into the tube magazine, so I can top this one off no problem. I just can't do that with that particular Winchester 94. So these are 357 Magnum rounds. I guess I'm going to see if I can hit my falling down steel target. I do not know if I hit it or not, but with these rounds, since this is not an angle eject system, they're just going to come right out of the top of the rifle, just like that, with much more force than that Winchester 94. And if there's a scope there, then that would probably cause malfunction. Let's go ahead and set another round here. Aha, I hit the steel that time. So thanks for watching, folks. This right here was me checking out some of my father's guns, including his Winchester 94. Hopefully you guys enjoyed the video. Appreciate your time. Like, subscribe, share. Got a plane flying in the background and Kevin screaming. Gotta love Florida, right? Like, subscribe, share, description below. Link to all sorts of stuff. Go check that out. You guys go off. Have yourself a fantastic day. I will see you guys on the next episode whenever we probably check out another one of my father's rifles, depending on how my video queue does. I'll see you later. Since I've done this. Bonnie and Clyde be damned.
Poor man's Gary. It's a shame that bolt action shotguns aren't more mainstream.